Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a quick first impressions video on this knife. Now this is an older model from Kizer, so normally I wouldn't do a first impressions, but there are some great deals on this knife out there right now, and there's not much about it in terms of reviews, so I thought I would go ahead and talk about it just for a couple of minutes here. The other thing I will do in this video is talk a little bit about shipping knives to Canada, both for those of you who are in the States and want an update, so you know, hey, if I sell a knife to a Canadian, what's the deal with that? And for those of you who are in Canada who are maybe looking for some tips or advice on how to get some knives in without having too many difficulties. So I'll hold off till the end with that discussion. For now, let's take a quick look at this Kizer Quicksilver. As I say, there are some good deals to be had on this knife right now. This guy has an S35 VN blade, compound grind, so we got a hollow grind here with a recurve, and then a flat grind here closer to the tip. We've got a clip point with this nice swedge, very attractive stonewash, so really, really cool looking blade. One of the things they've done aesthetically that I do like is they have darkened this titanium, and I find that adds a little more contrast with the blade, makes the knife, in my opinion, a little more attractive. Now, it also makes the hardware stand out a little bit more, pop a little bit more, and I do like that. We are still dealing with the, let's see, there you go, with the pivot screw there, and I'm just not a fan of that pivot screw. I wish they would switch to a plain screw. Anyway, it's not the end of the world. In terms of the lock mechanism here and the bearing, or I mean in the pivot, we do have bearing pivot there. Over here, you can see the lock bar cutout, and if you take a close look there, let's see, maybe I'll have to close the blade to show you this part. There you go. You can see if you look in there, there is an over travel stop extending back there behind the frame, as well as a stainless steel lock bar insert. In terms of the handle, as you can pretty well see, we've got a titanium frame lock, standoff construction that is pretty clean and pretty nicely done. Give you a kind of a look at the milling there, which I do appreciate. Ergonomically, it is pretty darn nice. Just a bent clip here. Now there is another version of this knife out there that you may come across. If you say, well, Kevin said there's some good deals out there, let me look around on the good old interweb. You may find a different version that has a blue anodized pocket clip there. To my knowledge, now someone can correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but to my knowledge, that version has phosphor bronze washers rather than a bearing pivot. Now, some of you may prefer that, and in fact, I wasn't exactly sure which version this was, and I was happy either way. It turned out to be the one with the bearing pivot, but phosphor bronze washers would have been fine as well. Just wanted to put that out there so you don't go and find one and it end up being disappointed because you wanted the bearings and got phosphor bronze washers. All right, I'm not going to spend any more time on the features of the knife. We'll get into detail about that when we do the full review at some point in the future, but I will share the size and weight with you. This is a fairly large knife. Let me grab a quick measurement here. So if you take a look there, you can see that this guy is going to be 9/16, 8 9/16 overall. Blade length 3 3/4. And the handle length when closed, 4 7/8. Now, I'm going to say, I bet you this is pretty well exactly 1/2 inch thick, and yeah, it is. It's pretty much exactly 1/2 inch. All right, let's grab scale here. 4.9 ounces in overall weight there. So for an 8.5 inch knife in full titanium, that's pretty good, especially if you look at the blade stock on there. That is some really thick blade stock. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with that weight actually. 4.9 ounces is not a problem at all. Now, where does this knife fit in? What do I think about it? Well, number one, because of some of the deals that are out there, if you're looking for a nice titanium frame lock that you don't have to be worried about using and abusing even a little bit, I think this is a great option. That flat ground tip is going to hold up pretty nicely. You can see it's actually pretty thick there. So I think this is a great offering, a great example of a, an EDC plus type of folder where it can take a little more of a beating than your average EDC. I think it's a great collector's piece. I also think it's a great project knife. So you could take this and do all kinds of things to the titanium that would make it look really cool and different, especially with these milled out sections. I would love to see what a good anodizer could do with the high and low spots there. Could look really, really sharp. Anyway, I do think this is a pretty good knife, and it's coming in at a pretty good deal right now. You should be able to find these for, you know, anywhere between 100 and 130 bucks, let's say, which I think is pretty good for what you're getting. In fact, I think that's great for what you're getting. Okay, so let me now move on to talk a little bit about shipping. And I want to bring in a couple of other knives that I've recently brought in that have prompted a number of questions about, you know, what do you do to get these knives into Canada? The first thing is that you need to understand, hold on, there we go. And actually I should, if I don't have room, but I'll throw this knife in there too. This is also from White Mountain Knives, where I ordered this one from. So let's see if I can kind of fit everything kind of in there, even if, there we go. In terms of bringing knives into Canada, the first thing you have to know is the primary job of CBSA, Canada Border Services Agency, is as tax collectors, okay? That's what they're primarily going to be concerned about. So the declared value on whatever you're buying makes a big difference, all right? White Mountain Knives, for as long as I have been ordering knives from them, they always put in the declared value box whatever the shipping cost is. And that means that it's a very low price, and most of the time Canada Border Services doesn't even care about it because it's not worth charging duty on it, so they just let it pass through. That's the story with both of these. A low declared value makes a big, big difference. The other thing that you can do, and often I have asked, when this knife came recently from Knife Center, I meant to bring the customs declaration with me, but I forgot it, so I'll just have to tell you. But if you read the customs declaration on this, it said camping tool. All right, so camping tool is going to set off a few less alarm bells than knife. Now, Knife Center is going to put the full declared value on. I mean, I haven't asked them, but I don't really ask that, by the way, guys. I'm not going to ask somebody to violate their conscience in any way. I don't think that's fair. And so if I buy a knife from you, I may point out that, hey, you know, there are some things you can possibly do to make it easier to get into the country, but whatever. So that was the story with this guy. It said camping tool on the box. This guy had a fairly low declared value, as did this one. This knife came from Knives Ship Free, and Knives Ship Free gets you stuff very, very quickly. These two companies, Knives Ship Free and White Mountain Knives, are probably my favorite places to order from in the US. White Mountain Knives is an eBay seller, and I'll often buy through eBay. And that's the other point that I want to make here. I am fairly certain at this point, you know, I haven't had it confirmed, and I don't think you would ever get someone to confirm this, but I'm fairly suspicious that eBay has some kind of an arrangement with Canada Border Services. I don't think I've ever had an eBay package stopped. Now, somebody who's watching this may want to weigh in and you know, share that, but I've asked around quite a bit, and it sounds like because of eBay's global shipping initiative, that gets them a little more leeway with CBSA. So eBay packages don't get quite as much attention as other packages because they assume that because of their global shipping initiative, everything is compliant. And technically, by the way, everything here is compliant. There's nothing here that is illegal to have in Canada. And so it's just CBSA that are kind of idiots right now. And I guess the Canadian International Trade Tribunal as well. So what can you do to increase your chances of getting your particular item across the border without difficulty? Number one, write down a low declared value. Number two, describe it as something other than a knife, a camping tool, a folding pocket tool, a multi-tool. You know, I'd be honest, but there are lots of things that you could call a knife that are completely true and accurate that would, you know, not set off any alarm bells for CBSA. You know, don't call it a tactical attack knife, okay, or an assault knife, because everyone knows those assault knives are deadly and must be confiscated no matter what. All right. So that's one of the big things there. The other thing is I do want to update you guys. The petition, or I mean, the petition is still out there and you can still sign it, sponsored by an MP. But in addition to that, and perhaps more importantly, there's also a legal effort to have that portion of the Criminal Code of Canada that defines prohibited weapons struck down as unconstitutional. And once that constitutional challenge is issued, at that point, it becomes not possible to enforce that portion of the criminal code because it's been challenged. And so CBSA would no longer be able to stop any knife coming in. And in fact, it may even extend it. I don't have a full understanding of this. I'm not a lawyer, so I could be wrong. But in my dream world, that would even make it legal perhaps to bring in, you know, OTFs or other things, balisongs that have not been legal up to this point. Anyway, I don't know if it applies to that portion of the criminal code or not, but we're going to wrap it up there. Those are the tips that I use. 1, low declared value. 2, describe it as anything other than a knife. Keep the, by the way, I tend to also have better success with retailers than with individual people. So that's everything. And that's all, by the way, bringing stuff in from the States. I've had a couple of things come in from China, like a GearBest box full of stuff, and that got through fine as well. I don't know. I haven't had a huge problem. I've heard a couple of people from time to time talk about this. So there you go, guys. For those of you who are still around because you were interested in the shipping discussion, thank you so much. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notifications, and I'd love to hear your comments in the discussion down below. What kind of success you have had with bringing stuff across the border, or of course, anything else you'd like to comment, even on the knife we've been just taking a look at. Thanks for watching. And we'll talk to you soon.